This video is in response to Marcus from the Groundwork for the Metaphysics of MGTOW for the video that he made on January 5th, 2018, entitled, "If MGTOW Ever Mattered, It Mattered Here. Help Me, Please." Marcus, I just want to let you know right in the beginning, while I'm not an attorney, I do have over a decade of family law experience in the United States. And so while I may not know the laws specifically, I'm going to discuss this from a conceptual framework so that the legal concepts can be addressed and the attorneys can figure out how to apply those legal concepts within the framework of both Ontario and the United Kingdom. Now, one of the things that I noticed that when you talked about this video is that it sounds like your friend lives in the United Kingdom but is commencing legal proceedings in Ontario, Canada, which the mom initiated or the ex-wife initiated. The concern that I have about that is that if the child was removed from the United Kingdom illegally, there may be some parental kidnapping laws that may apply, especially if there's no document signed. So technically she's breaking the law. And if it were me and this was my child, I would fight for custody back. I mean, obviously, you need to determine how much horsepower you have financially to afford attorneys and to really just figure out if you can afford it financially. But the reality is that, I've been a father who was deprived custody of my children, and eventually after 5 years, I fought for my kids back, and I won. I've also helped other fathers win custody of their children as well, working with their attorneys and helping them individually. So I do have some background here, but again, I want to make sure it's abundantly clear. Number one, I'm not an attorney, and number two, I'm from the United States. And so the legal arguments that I'm going to present are my personal opinions. They're not legal opinions, and they're based on American legal system, not necessarily UK or Canada. However, even though I originally was going to respond in your comments section, I think that it's relevant to this conversation because I did a little bit of legal research as far as what the laws are. Now, the United Kingdom and Canada both have parental kidnapping laws, and I'll explain this in a minute. It sounds like the mom has a mental health history. Now, whether you want to call it postpartum depression or bipolar or any kind of cluster B disorder is somewhat irrelevant. It sounds like she has mental health issues. That in of itself can create a lot of problems with her ability to parent. In addition to that, the fact that she relocated from the United Kingdom to Canada, even if temporarily, sounds like a pretense, and it sounds like she planned the divorce and planned the abandonment and planned the deprivation of the parent-child relationship between the father and the child before she ever left UK. And I think that there can be an argument that could be made to show that she had planned this from the beginning, she never got the consent, and then she tried to use a settling statute. Now, while the Hague Convention, I believe, is important, I believe that focusing on the Hague Convention runs the risk of tunnel vision and waives many other arguments that could be made in addition to the Hague Convention. Parental kidnapping is huge. There are laws against it in the United Kingdom. There are laws against it in Canada, in every province in Canada, and anywhere in the first world, for that matter. As far as the bad faith actions on the mom is concerned, the dad was under the impression that mom was only there temporarily. This could be used to attack her character and her credibility in court. This is something that the attorney should be doing. Now, as far as the initial responses are concerned, as far as the legal responses, if the father's attorney did not put those arguments forth in the beginning with the original Hague arguments, there could be a possibility that he may have waived them. And if he did that, that's the attorney's fault. That's malpractice. It's negligence, and it's retarded. And I think that the attorney should be addressed in those terms. Now, the other issue that I see is that the mom went forum shopping. So if she really wanted a divorce, she could have done the divorce in the United Kingdom, but she didn't want that. She wanted to hurt the dad. And again, this goes back to this idea that mom planned the divorce prior, and she chose to go to Ontario, Canada to be close to family, but also to make it extremely and financially and emotionally difficult for the father to fight for custody in a foreign jurisdiction that was friendly to her. Again, she's got family there. She's got attachments there. This is what's called forum shopping. It's also an element of bad faith conduct. The fact, again, to go back again to the consent that was unsigned, I think that's extremely important, and I think it's something that he should be thinking about. And if it were me and these were my kids, the thing that I would do is I'd file a fucking police report. I'd file it in the UK, and I would file one in Canada and be like, look, she's using this, she's kidnapping the children under color of law, and that's the term you want to use, under color of law, and you want a police report filed, both with law enforcement in UK and Canada. Then you need to talk to your Hague Convention attorney or the attorney in Ontario and say, look, the Hague Convention is important, and yeah, we need to address it, but you need to address every other argument as well, and you need to prepare for trial. Now, as far as amending the complaint is concerned, it doesn't matter whether he amends the complaint or whether he files a new Hague Convention complaint. The date of the amended complaint and the date of the Hague Convention complaint, that's not going to change regardless. Now, if the attorney knew about the Hague Convention complaint or should have known about the Hague Convention complaint and didn't do it initially, that attorney fucked up. And frankly, all the legal fees between the time the attorney fucked up and the time the amended complaint was filed, he shouldn't have to pay for. That's unethical, it's wrong, and it's completely inappropriate in every way possible. But if it were me and these were my kids, now that I've kind of covered some of that, here's what I would do in the order I would do it. I'd file police reports in the UK. I'd file police reports in Canada. Then what I would do is I would start a divorce action in the United Kingdom based on parental kidnapping laws, based on bad faith laws, and based on mom's mental health history. Then I would go ahead and I would contact and I would challenge the jurisdiction of Canada under the Hague Convention and under local laws showing that mom created what's referred to as an abusive use of conflict, that she was forum shopping, and that she had planned to abandon the family beforehand and had lied to the husband about it. And I would use that unsigned travel consent to deal with. Now, when it comes to the children settling, when it comes to the whole best interest of the child standard, that's all bullshit. That's going to be something that you have to look at after everything else is looked at. You have some serious legal concerns here. And so if it were me and these were my children, what I would end up doing is I would go to the Ontario Family Court. I would challenge jurisdiction, not under just the Hague Convention, but under their jurisdictional laws as well. And I would say, look, mom has created this abusive use of conflict. She's been forum shopping. She went out of her way to create, in bad faith, to set the father up to be alienated from his child. Now, Canada, even though they're like a social justice shithole, just like the United Kingdom when it comes to family law, these are options that he can do. And his attorney just needs to grow a pair of balls and handle it. But frankly, if it were me and I were him, I wouldn't file a new complaint. I would amend the complaint to add the Hague Convention arguments as well as any of the other arguments are there. The other thing that I would do is I would do discovery on all the emails that she's had since they moved to the United Kingdom. Find out what she's planned. Find out when she had her attorney. Find out who's financially supporting her. And find out where everything is at as far as not just her finances, but what communication she had with her parents and her family. If there were any other kind of relationship issues that were associated there, you're going to find that if the attorney does full discovery, you might uncover some additional facts that you may not have considered otherwise. Now, the reason that I bring all this stuff up is because, again, there's no allegation of abuse on his part. There's no allegation of sexual assault, child abuse, physical assault, or anything. No allegation of verbal abuse or emotional abuse. Now, granted, as the fight heats up, those things are going to happen. If your friend is going to fight this, he needs to prepare to go to the Court of Appeals in Canada and potentially the Court of Appeals in the United Kingdom. But he needs to have litigation happening in both places. In addition to that, he needs to be contacting his local politicians, and he needs to make sure that police reports are filed. Even if nothing is done, the police reports have to be filed. One of the things that you said that was telling to me is that there was no travel consent. Well, if there's no travel consent, technically that's kidnapping. And if anybody doesn't like that, they can go play hide and go fuck themselves. Because the reality is that the law is very clear. And so while everybody's talking about the Hague Convention, you're considering, by having that tunnel vision there, you're potentially waiving a variety of other extremely strong legal arguments that you may have. And again, if it were me, I'd put mom on the stand, or I would do interrogatories, or I would depose her, and I'd be like, look, when did you decide to do this? Give me all your emails. Give me all your electronic communication. I would question the parents, find out what the parents knew, and then I would turn around and I would be like, look, if I found any evidence of this, now I have my bad faith, and now I can move forward. And again, the time passed is irrelevant. I talked about this in the TFM show on Saturday. When the question came up, I kind of elaborated a little bit. I talked about guardian ad litems, Even though there's guardian ad litems in Canada, I think some of the same concepts apply, especially if the guardian ad litems are not parties to the action and they're considered fact witnesses like they are in U.S. Family law. But I think that, look at that. I forget when the segment is. I'll see if I can hunt that down later and find it. I'm kind of just doing a quick video here to kind of respond. And one of the reasons I'm doing this video and not necessarily responding to your comments is because I think other people could find some use in this information as well. And again, to reiterate, the key pieces here are forum shopping, abusive use of conflict, mom pre-planning the bad faith actions, and showing that basically this was planned by mom from the beginning and that mom has mental health issues. And the fact that he traveled over there and she kept this from him is a clear demonstration that she had already planned this. And one of the things that I found is that in these types of situations, when the mom abandons the father, she's already planned it months in advance. This is something that, he's usually the last one to find out. But again, you can demonstrate that she's, or at least there's a chance, I should say, you can demonstrate that she's been dishonest. You can demonstrate bad faith. You can demonstrate that she went forum shopping to find a friendly jurisdiction that would side with her and increase his litigation cost. And then what I would do is I'd find out if she's receiving any kind of financial support from her family or anybody like that. And if she is, I'd request the court get attorney fees from them too. Because if he wins, he should be able to collect legal fees from mom, whether it be the UK court or in Canada. But it's most important that as soon as possible, he should be filing police reports. And he should be making sure that he is not waiving his jurisdictional arguments. And if his attorney's already waived the jurisdictional argument, in other words, if he goes back and he files the amended Hague Convention complaint, and they say, oh, well, the time has passed and you're outside the window and you should have filed it when you first filed your response, then he needs to go after his attorney, and he needs to go scorched earth on the attorney and sue that attorney into the Stone Ages for fucking him and destroying his family. There's really no nice way about it. And frankly, he should be having a come to Jesus meeting with the attorney and being like, look, you fucked up, and you fucked up big. And if the attorney's offended by it, the attorney shouldn't be practicing law in the first place, because they deal with life-altering circumstances every day. So if he doesn't have the backbone to stand up to his own client, he doesn't have the balls to fight in court. So those are kind of my general thoughts. I hope that helps. And again, just to reiterate a fourth time, this looks like parental kidnapping to me. That travel consent is unsigned, which means that she's violated UK law. And frankly, I think that there's a possibility that the United Kingdom could issue a warrant for her arrest, even though she's got a Canadian civil order giving her temporary custody. And I would be enforcing that, and I would be pushing that and be like, look, this is what's going on, and we need to enforce the law. And I would enforce the criminal statutes as well. And I would tell the Ontario police the same things. Make sure that he documents everything. Make sure he gets case reports, case numbers, and anything the attorney sees, he should see. Any correspondence between his attorney and her attorney, he needs to have copies of. Everything. And the attorneys don't like to do it in many jurisdictions, but they need to. He needs to be CC'd on everything that's sent out. Because a lot of times these family law attorneys will have conversations behind the client's back because the family law attorneys know one another. A lot of these jurisdictions, the family law industry is a very small and close-knit industry, so all the players know each other. So he needs to know what they're saying about the case, and the only way to do that is to make sure that he's CC'd on everything. And he needs to give his attorney these directions in writing. The attorney works for him. He doesn't work for the attorney. And the goal of the attorney is for the attorney to tell him exactly how to do what it is he wants to do, not whether or not he can do what he wants to do. And the thing that I would say is this. As a father who fought for his kids for 5 years, the one thing that all fathers who fight for their kids have in common is that once you took my children from me, that was the worst you could do. So with that in mind, when I come for you, what do you got? You got nothing. You got nothing to hold against me. You got nothing to hold over me, because everything you could have done to destroy my family has already been done. And that's the thing that I would tell your friend and say, look, everything they could have done to you emotionally, they've already done. So you can choose to grieve about it a little bit longer, or you can choose to allow that to free you, to alter your mindset to choose to fight for your children. And then in the end, if he wins, then, and I talked about this in the TFM show, he should have the mom pay for reconciliation therapy so that the children can reconcile their relationship with the father. I think that's extremely important. I think it's extremely relevant, and I've seen it happen. With that in mind, though, I will say this. The UK and Canada are cucked. They're run by feminist policies and feminist governments. It will be an uphill battle. However, if the law is on his side, and if he prepares to fight in the Court of Appeals in both jurisdictions from the get-go, there's a good chance he'll win. Again, he has to make sure that his attorney is willing to fight and that he has an attorney that knows what the fuck they're doing as far as doing discovery and doing trial prep. And if his attorney doesn't have a good legal reason why he's doing certain things or why he's not doing certain things, those are warning signs. But the thing that concerns me the most right now is that when he filed his initial response to the attorney in Ontario, he should have made that argument about the Hague Convention. The fact that the attorney didn't do so tells me that that attorney on a good day is retarded. So those are my thoughts. I hope that helps. And again, I'm just kind of spitballing off the cuff. This is just kind of a recording in one take. And these are just kind of like my personal opinions. If there's any other questions you have or anything like that, feel free to reach out to me at misandry.happens@gmail.com. Or you can reach out to me at Twitter at misandrytoday. Again, I hope this helps, and I can tell you from firsthand that your friend has my sympathy. I've seen a lot of fathers go through this. This destroys them. This is the type of thing that is, it destroys a man's life. So he has my sympathy. He has my empathy. And if there's anything that I can do to provide a little bit of support or feedback, please let me know. Talk to you later. And this is DDJ. And this has been your dose of misandry today.